So you're thinking about moving to Dallas, Texas, but you just came to the realization that Dallas Fort Worth is huge. This metroplex is larger than a lot of people even imagine before they get here. In fact, the DFW Metroplex is the fourth largest metro in the entire United States. And in terms of size, it is about 9,200 square miles. So I know it sounds a little bit crazy. I always seem to get some smart aleck in the comments talking about how I'm crazy about talking about the size of the DFW area. But I challenge you to Google it yourself to just find out just how large the DFW area is. But not to worry, that is exactly what I'm here for. I want to help you make that move here to Dallas, Texas go as smooth as possible. So my name is Kristen Carpentier, and I am a local real estate agent here in the Dallas area. And my team and I love helping people just like you relocate here to Dallas. Me and my family also made that move here to Dallas just over 11 years ago now from the Phoenix area, and I have learned a lot of things along the way. So, however it is that you found our channel, we are so glad that you are here. We have done a lot of videos on what it's like living here in Dallas and the surrounding suburbs. And our video library is continuing to grow every single week. So make sure to go check some of them out. And if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out or shoot me a text, give us a call, send us an email, and we will get right back to you so that we can help determine how to make that move here to Dallas that much easier. So today we are talking about living in Little Elm, Texas. Little Elm is a town located in Denton County, Texas, and the town was first settled in the 1840s and was named after its location on a small little portion of land that juts out into Louisville Lake, making it look like a little elm. So that's how it got its name. Little Elm, Texas is best known for its proximity to Louisville Lake. In fact, Little Elm has the distinction of being the town in the DFW Metroplex that contains the most miles of shoreline. So, of course, a lot of the most popular things to do in Little Elm involve Lake Louisville and, of course, all of the water sports. The lake is quite large, offering boating, swimming, camping, fishing, and a ton of other recreational activities at one of its 5 marinas. So Lake Louisville spans over 46 acres of land and has 233 miles of shoreline, just to give you a little bit of an idea of exactly how big Lake Louisville is. Now, Little Elm is also known for its central location, and you can get to Frisco in just about 15 minutes without traffic, and you can also head over to Denton within less than 30 minutes. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a bit. Now, Little Elm is also a great community to be a part of. They have a lot of themed events that they do within the city of Little Elm throughout the year. And some of the things that they do, they have the Big Easy in Little Elm, which is a super fun tradition for a lot of the locals around the area. This is a Louisiana-inspired event that takes place in Little Elm every single year around Mardi Gras, of course. And the event includes a 5K and a 10K race, live music, and more importantly, a crawfish boil. And if you've never been to a crawfish boil, obviously it's something you should check out. We used to go to them when we lived back east. So anytime you're along the water or somewhere like that, you're going to find those crawfish boils. We didn't find out a lot about those until we had moved to the south. It takes place a lot more the further south you get. So a super fun event that happens over in Little Elm. And Little Elm also has the July Jubilee, which is one of the most popular events of the summer, of course, and is located in Little Elm Park right there along the lake. So it's a 4th of July celebration. All of the locals love to attend and participate in. And obviously people from all over the Dallas metro go. So you can spend your day by the water and then you can hang around, enjoy all of the events going on, and just stick around and watch the fireworks right after. And in the fall, Little Elm also hosts the Pumpkin Hollow event with hay rides and a haunted trail, an old-fashioned carnival, and a family-friendly Halloween movie. There are, of course, a lot of other events that happen in Little Elm as well. So I encourage you to check out their website to make sure that you don't miss out on anything that's happening in that particular area. So as many of the cities in the Dallas metro have grown so much in recent years with migration to our wonderful state of Texas, Little Elm has also begun to grow quite quickly as well. So, in fact, the 2020 census had Little Elm's population at around 47,000 people. And since then, it has grown about 28%, with a current population in 2023 of about 60,000 people. And Little Elm is forecast to continue its growth with an estimated population by 2028 of around 90,000 people. Now, according to niche.com, Little Elm Texas received an overall grade of an A minus, which we will discuss some of those particular categories in detail here in just a second. And of the other 12 categories in niche, the 4 that received an A were for their schools, jobs, diversity, and that it's a good place for families. 6 categories received a B rating, and there were 2 categories that received a C, which was for the crime and the commute, which we will also dive into a little bit more here shortly. Now, Little Elm is located on the north side of Dallas, about 35 miles straight north, which is part of the reason it received a grade for C for commute, as it's also limited on the kind of highway options that you can jump on because of its location. But with the lake life, you might be a little bit more willing to make a trade-off for the views and the activities in lieu of some of the commute time. So if you are commuting to downtown on a regular basis or over to Fort Worth, you're going to want to be aware of the cost and time you will be giving up if you do happen to live in Little Elm. So if you don't work downtown, but you still wanted to go to, let's say, a Dallas Mavericks basketball game or a Dallas Stars hockey game in the downtown area, that's going to be approximately 35 miles away. And depending on when you were traveling, it could take anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes to quite possibly over an hour with traffic, or if there happened to be an accident on one of our many freeways here. Now, let's also say that maybe you needed to jump on a flight or pick up some family members from the DFW airport. You are going to be looking at around 23 miles, and it could also take you about 30 minutes. So if you are maybe thinking you wanted to catch a Texas Rangers game, or maybe a Dallas Cowboys football game over in Arlington, and you needed to get there from the city of Little Elm, it's going to be probably a good 40 miles away. And that drive is likely going to take at least 45 minutes to well over an hour, depending on what the traffic is like at that particular time. And of course, as always, when you move here to Texas, you might need to catch a rodeo. Maybe you need to head over to Fort Worth to the stockyards, show some family or friends around town. And that is going to be about 48 miles away. So it's most likely going to take you about 50 minutes to quite possibly over an hour if there are any sort of issues on any of these highways as well. So as we take a look at the demographics in Little Elm, Texas, let's give you an idea of the feel and the size, the population, the median age, home ownership rates, language makeup, and the country of origin that you're going to find there. As for the size, it is only going to be around 18 square miles. And like I said before, the population of Little Elm in 2022 during the census was around 47,000 people. And as of 2023, the population is about 60,000 people. So as we indicated, Little Elm has been growing quickly, as it is up 28% since the 2020 census. So it does rank 64th in all of Texas in terms of population and 648th in the entire country. But because of the new construction and homes that are still being built in Little Elm, hence the reason why it is going to continue to grow for quite a little bit of time. So the median age of the people living in Little Elm is around 35 years old, with the males averaging 32.8 and females averaging around 36.7 years old. Now, do most people rent or do they own their homes? Well, the Little Elm ownership rate is actually quite high compared to some of the other cities in the metro, and that is around 69%, with 44% of the women owning a home, while 65% of men own their own home in Little Elm. So that leaves the percentage of rentals at about 31%, with 56% renting and 35% of the men renting. Now, the predominant languages that are spoken are about 73% of the people only speak English, while 27% speak other different languages. And Spanish does have the largest percentage of other languages at around 13%. So in terms of the country of origin, almost 87% of Little Elm residents were born here in the United States, with 42% being born within the state of Texas. And about 9.6% of the residents are not U.S. citizens, with the largest portion being from Asia countries at 53%, followed by Latin America with 34%. And the median income in Little Elm for single family households is almost $94,000 a year. For families, it is about $103,000 a year. And married families, it is showing at around $118,000 a year. And according to payscale.com, the cost of living in Little Elm is about 12% higher than the national average. But if you were moving from, let's say, Sacramento, California, for example, the cost of living is about 5.6% lower to live in Little Elm, Texas, with the utilities and housing accounting for a lot of the reason there. So now let's get into the politics. And does Little Elm lean more liberal or more conservative? Well, if you're looking at the 2020 map of voters, Little Elm at the precinct level, it was overwhelmingly liberal. And of the 8 precincts that were counted, 6 of the 8 leaned Democrat, with only 2 that were voting Republican. Now, as you can tell from the shading here, it was not a deep blue, but it was at least 45 to 60% liberal for the most part. So if that is of importance to you, at least now you have a little bit better of an idea about that. Little Elm also resides within Denton County, which did lean more conservative in the 2020 elections. Donald Trump beat Joe Biden pretty handily by a margin of 53.3% to 45.2%. The Republicans also won the Senate seat as well by a margin of 55.9% to 41.4%. So Little Elm is a little bit different from many of the other areas in Denton County, other than maybe the city of Denton, which is, of course, a college town, and that area also leaned more liberal. So on to the crime. Now, as we look a little bit closer at the crime statistics in Little Elm, Texas, we will use a couple of different resources, and we do encourage you to do some more of your own research as well if this is something that is important to you. Now, bestplaces.net, which indicates it does use the FBI data and rates both violent crime and property crimes, which is a scale of 1 to 100, with 1 being the lowest crime rate and 100 being the highest crime rates. Little Elm, Texas received a rating of 10 for its violent crime compared to Dallas, which has a 37 rating, and the U.S. average being 22.7. And the property crime rate for Little Elm was rated at a 15.6, with Dallas being 50.7 and the U.S. average being 35.4. So the other resource that we do like to look at is neighborhoodscout.com, which sources its data from over 18,000 police departments in the United States, as well as other law enforcement agencies, and they give Little Elm a rating of a 72, which indicates that it is safer than 72% of all U.S. neighborhoods. So while Niche did give it a rating of a C+ for crime, according to these 2 resources, Little Elm appears to receive a pretty good rating for crime compared to other cities that we have reviewed. Also, though there were only 7 reviews on Niche for crime, they seem to indicate the police and the community were still pretty good. Now, as we turn to employment in Little Elm, Texas, as we had mentioned earlier, the median household income in Little Elm is quite high compared to some of the other cities. So that is going to be around $94,000 a year. And if you look at some of the top 5 occupation categories for Little Elm, the residents are in management occupations, with that being around 14.3%, with median earnings of around $143,000, and around 3,600 people are employed in that sector. Office and administrative support was at 9.5%, with a median earnings of around $97,000 and over 2,400 people employed there. And there's also sales and related occupations at 9.3%, with median earnings of around $86,000 and almost 2,400 people employed. Business and financial operations make up about 8.9%, with a median earnings of around $145,000 and around 2,200 people employed. And finally, computer and mathematical occupations were about 7.5%, with the median earnings of about $179,000 and almost 2,000 people employed. And according to Zippa, there were only 3 employers that were actually rated for the city of Little Elm, which means that most people actually commute to another city or are remote workers. So, number one is the Little Elm Independent School District, which employs around 561 people. Number two is the town of Little Elm, which employs around 350 people. And number three is Retractable Technologies, which employs about 123 people. So the Little Elm ISD has about 8,000 students that attend one high school, three middle schools, and six elementary schools. And if you look at niche.com, we do see that the Little Elm ISD has an overall rating of a B. And of the 9 categories that niche uses to create its overall score, Little Elm ISD receives an A in 2 of them, and at least a B in the other 4, and a C in 3 of them. So looking at the map, you can see how the scores are distributed through Little Elm, and I encourage you to look into this a little bit more if it's something that's important to you. Some of the other statistics that we found in niche are that the student to teacher ratio is 19:1, and nationally the ratio is 17:1. This is a little bit different than a lot of the schools in the metro area, typically because schools have smaller children per class size. But this is also the reason for the teacher score being at about a C minus. And the expenses per student are just over $12,000, with the national average being around $12,239. So this is about average compared to the rest of the nation. And if you look at the reviews on niche, of the 102 reviews, 76 of them were rated very good to excellent. So again, the reviews and ratings can be a little bit skewed. So if the school district is really important to you, then I do suggest you do a little bit more research and see if Little Elm is going to be the right place for you. But another thing to think about as well in regards to the schools and living in Little Elm is that even if you live in Little Elm, you could be zoned for going to a different school district. You could be zoned for the Frisco ISD or Denton ISD or even Oak Point. So another thing to ask us about, to make sure that if that really is important to you, to find out which areas might be a better fit for you and your family if you need to worry about the schools. So here's the map of Little Elm. And as you can see, it does go along Lake Louisville, a lot of, we'll call it the coastline here. So down here on the south side, you do have this big bridge that does go across here into the Little Elm Beach Park. You can do boat launches, you can go hang out, play sand volleyball. A lot of the events and things that they have going on are going to be down here at Little Elm Park. And then up here on the north side, you can see the 380 highway goes right through the north part of Little Elm that heads over, into Prosper and Frisco, for example, and down and then over into Denton as well. So this 380 freeway is the one that's under construction. It's always super congested. Everybody likes trying to avoid it if they can. But in a nutshell, that's where you can see the location of Little Elm. And when we kind of pull up so you can get an idea of directions and where everything is. And I know we talked about how to get down into downtown Dallas, for example. So when we pull up downtown, and you can see, granted, there's quite a bit of traffic right now. So with some traffic, heading straight down the toll road is going to take you over an hour and about 33 miles, because you do kind of have to get through Little Elm and over here to the freeway. And that's if you are over on this side. That doesn't even take into account if you were over here on the other side of the lake, or, up closer here to 380. Obviously, if you're up closer here, you could come this way down the 35 East Freeway if you need to, but you can kind of see the distance of where that is. And then when we show you DFW Airport, for example, if you need to catch a flight or pick up somebody from the airport, as you can see, multiple options to get over there as well. And still 27 to 33 miles, some traffic. You're looking at probably a good 45 minutes. And like I said, you could be down closer here, anywhere in these other sections, or even up closer here north in Little Elm to do that. So your commute could even be a little bit longer. And one last thing, just kind of showing you on the map how to get down to Fort Worth. You can see that it really is a little bit of a hike. So 52 miles, maybe 46 miles if you're going to catch the easy route to get out there. But as you can see, it's quite the hike to get over there. So when we are talking about, distance and location and what there is to do, and as you can see, it's way up here on the north end of basically the DFW metro, close to Prosper, close to a lot of these other cities. If you work over in Denton, we have that option over here into Frisco or anywhere on the east side as well. That's kind of what we're looking at for Little Elm. So just kind of give you an idea of where it is located on the map. So you can, make that adjustment to see if this might be the right fit for you. But there is new construction up here, and one of the, we'll call it bigger, more popular new construction communities. It is fairly built out. It still has the public pool, community center, lots of grass space, ponds and things. Is going to be up here on the north side in Union Park. Now, some of these areas, kind of like if you're over here more on the east side, some of these neighborhoods are going to feed over into Frisco ISD. So like we always tell our clients, if you are wanting a particular school district, find the area that is going to fit you. And sometimes it could branch out into another part of the city. There is new construction in multiple areas throughout Little Elm based on your price point. Sometimes you can get a little bit more for your money because you're a little bit further north, and there are going to be some smaller master plan communities over here, but we have, multiple areas here in Little Elm with new construction. So again, reach out. We can kind of go through some of these areas, and maybe you do need to adjust for your commute, because if you need to be down here and kind of get all the way out and around to get on the road to get over to work, it could be a little bit more of a hike. So could be good for people who have remote work or, don't need to travel nearly as much by living over in some of these areas. So when we pop in here to my MLS and I pull up the homes that are either under contract or currently active or coming soon here in Little Elm, you can see that in the $300,000 to $400,000 price range, there's actually quite a few options. Maybe not everybody wants to be a little bit more locked in by the lake down over here and only really having the 380 to get out of the city on, or something a little bit closer over here where you can hop on the bridge to get over to the 35 freeway or head over into the Frisco area. So definitely multiple options in this price point that a lot of people, first-time home buyers, want something a little bit cheaper. So when you kind of come up here, this is Union Park, one of the master plan communities that is getting a lot of interest from people who are reaching out, mainly because there are different price points and yet you still have all of the amenities. So you can get a starter home, you can get a much larger home, but you get a lot more for your money because it's over in Little Elm. So when we kind of click on one of these that is currently under contract, and as you can see, this particular house is pre-owned, but it has a lot of the upgrades that people want. They want a move-in ready house, some people, and they don't want to have to go in and do a lot of work. If it doesn't really matter where you're living and you want something a little bit more move-in ready, but more affordable. So we can definitely find that in Little Elm. And then when we move over into the $400,000 to $500,000 range, you can see there's lots of options as well. So when they're green, they're available currently on the market. So we do have multiple opportunities. The homes over in Little Elm currently, as of right now, are lasting slightly longer than some of these other more popular cities here in the Dallas metro area. But as you can see, there's still plenty of options within this price point if you want something that might be a little bit bigger. Say, let's click on $450,000. You're getting 2,700 square feet for $450,000 and move-in ready, a lot of upgrades and things that you may not have to work on. So you get more for your budget, and you just need to take into account the location here in Little Elm and if it's going to be the right fit for you. Now, when you kind of get into a higher price point of a home, $500,000 and above, well, you really are going to find quite a few in the $500,000 to $700,000 and upwards of, $800,000 and $900,000. The more expensive you get, it doesn't have as many options as you do in some of those mid-range price points here in Little Elm, but there is one home over $1 million and one for $3.8 million currently for sale in Little Elm. Actually, I take that back. $1.6 million is just now under contract. So thought I would show you. It is a new construction home. It has almost 5,000 square feet, and it is in an amazing community down close to the lake. So if you want completely move-in ready, you want upgraded everything, this is one of my favorite houses that I have seen lately. Love some good wood beams, love big tall ceilings. So, and your access to the lake is just right down the street. So this is a really beautiful custom home community here in Little Elm, and you can find that. So not everything is in the affordable price point. Do you want a master plan community? Do you want a custom home? You can find custom homes in Little Elm. They just don't last that long on the market. So currently, like I said, only 2 on the market over $1 million. And for the most part, everything's going to be under $1 million in Little Elm. The majority of the homes are anyway. So love this house. So currently, one last look on the location of Little Elm and what is available. This is everything new and coming soon. There is 124 homes available, ranging anywhere from just over $200,000 to just over $1 million. So if this is something that you're looking for and you like this location and you really want to be close to the lake life, some of these properties you can dock your boat on, but also multiple marinas that you can put your boat out on and have them do the work for you and somewhere to store it. So if lake life is for you, this location up here north, because also a lot of people do work in the Frisco, Plano area, if we can help you find the perfect spot here in Little Elm right along the lake. So of course, here on our channel, we love talking about real estate. And if you are looking to move here and purchase a home, people want to know what they can get for their money and where some of these places might be the best fit for them. So in Little Elm, since the 2023 median sales price for a single family home is around $431,000, and it does range from, get this, around $93,000 to $1.2 million. I will say in Little Elm, you could probably find a single wide trailer. So you can find a little bit of the manufactured housing. You can also find some older, smaller homes, but you can actually find a number of new build communities in Little Elm as well. Union Park is probably one of the biggest ones. It's up closer to the Prosper area. It has homes that do range from around $500,000 to $800,000. It has a lot of green space, community pool, parks, walking trails, ponds, and it is a big draw for a lot of people who don't necessarily need to be in one of these big master plan communities, but they do want access to good schools and to a decent location because they don't mind living possibly a little bit further outside of the city. So if you want some of these areas that are maybe a little bit closer to the lake life or something that does reside over in the Frisco ISD, there are going to be a lot of options for you to check out. Not everybody, like I said, realizes some of these cities that do feed into some of these other school districts and exactly what cities do feed into the Little Elm school district. So that's why you reach out to us so that we can help kind of narrow these things down and give you a better idea of what it's like living in some of these areas and what might be the best thing within your budget. Now, when we are talking about some of the pros and cons that we do love to give everybody, the good and the bad when they're researching and looking to move somewhere, obviously, why would a lot of people want to move to Little Elm? Well, I mean, quite frankly, one of the big ones is the lake life. People are moving here and realizing I can be close to water. I can go hiking along the lake. I can be out on the lake to go paddle boarding or meet our friends to head out on the boat all day because there's multiple ways that you can enjoy that lake life, and they love the location. Plenty of people are now moving here who are remote workers and they can live wherever they want. And they really might just need access to the grocery store, but occasionally have the opportunity to go downtown or to go to anywhere around the metro, and they don't have to do that on a regular basis. So as long as you're okay with living a little bit further outside of the city, that is going to enable you to hopefully get a little bit more home for your money, maybe get a newer home that isn't quite as lived in, and your money goes a lot further because you are a little bit further outside the city. And of course, some of the most popular school districts are Prosper and Frisco, for example, but you can still go in, put your kids in the Frisco ISD if you live in one of those portions in Little Elm. So definitely a lot of those pros by doing that location. Not everybody wants to be super close to downtown and they'd rather have a better location. But of course, it is far. So definitely one of the negatives, as niche.com puts out there, it's, one of those things that is rated a little bit lower is the commute. So if you are having to commute on a regular basis, we have had some people who have complained about that I have spoken to, and they just did not love the commute just because trying to get over to the freeway or trying to get outside of the area of Little Elm to get on the freeway or to get anywhere that they need to commute for work, it can be a little bit of a hassle. So obviously why it is very popular for a lot of people who might not have that long of a commute or might get to work remotely. And also people have a tendency to feel like they might be a little bit trapped, not able to hop on the freeway or get to the grocery store quite as easily as you can in some of these other areas. When you have looked at the map and you've seen where Little Elm goes all around Lake Louisville, and it's not exactly just a perfect circle, it does make it a little bit more of a challenge to get in and around if you are living in the area of Little Elm. But as I said, lots of pros, definitely some cons. So if you have any further questions about what it's like living in Little Elm, and if you want us to help kind of narrow down that home search and give you some ideas of what your money can get you, please reach out to us. Let us know how we can help answer those questions so that we can help you make that smooth move here to the Dallas, Texas area. And until next time, take care.